All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bop Stop Studios. Welcome, at least virtually. My name is Jonathan Fagan. I'm the co-founder of the Medford Jazz Festival, and I'm really excited to get this outreach series started. I think we're going to have quite the array of Medford artists that are coming here once a month to share their music with you, especially since there aren't too many club gigs at the moment, as you might imagine. I'm joined today by a very special guest, Medford's own Terry Carter, over there in the other room with the giant speaking microphone. He's going to read a bunch of poetry tonight, and I'm going to accompany him the best I can. Do some stuff that we've done before, other things that are entirely new to us. And Terry, I'm just amazed by the range of subject matter that you cover in all of your work. In fact, you're still working on your 6th book of poetry, is that right?
Yeah.
That's
trying
amazing.
to get some stuff down, yes.
Yeah, you have plenty of stuff down, that's for sure. I just bought his fifth volume of work, Brown Skin and the Brave New World, recently, and I've just been going through it, setting some of it to music. And
Yes.
it's just amazing stuff. So check out his website on brownskinpoet.net if you haven't already. And also the Medford Jazz Festival Patreon page, which is how we're going to fund a majority of these concerts. It's a crowdfunding campaign, just a small monthly donation. If we get enough people, we'll be able to do some pretty amazing things with local musicians coming in here once a month and putting together some original music for you. So initiatives like that, I'm feeling like are really the wave of the future in many ways. With this, I know that Medford Arts Council and Cachet are already getting involved in some of this, so stay tuned for more on that if you haven't seen it already. There should be a link in the description somewhere to both the Medford YouTube page and the Patreon page as well. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Terry here to talk. You want to say something about a couple of the things that we're going to do?
Yeah. First, I just want to say these collaborations, certainly with Jonathan Fagan, my partner over here, and also with his group, the Ally Project, have been a real revelation for me. Have been an opportunity to write some new stuff and present some pieces that are really, really focused on the times that we're going through right now. So I think that's where we're going to start with a piece that John and I have been talking about and wanting to play, and it's called Alienation, and you'll get the drift pretty easily.
Yep.
Here is a fence without a gate. You can't get in, you have to wait. You can't be foreign or somehow strange. This isn't your home on the range. You can't arrive in a rickety boat. Our castle has a treacherous moat. We won't host refugees at our door. You're not the sort we're looking for. Take good note, we stay on guard. We don't want you in our backyard. Despite the danger you seek to avoid, our best deterrents have been deployed. You say your country's full of peril, but like stray cats, we think you're feral. We think you're prone to filth and crime. We don't want either at this time. We don't care what the nations say. They won't do more than hope and pray. Our stance is clear on human rights. Lock the door, turn off the lights. You saw that statue in the bay? It stood for liberty until today. It welcomed tired and huddled masses, not criminals from your underclasses. We've got militias on the border. They own big guns to keep the order. Law enforcement lets them stay to help them keep your kind at bay. Why do we feel that this is good? Why can't we share the neighborhood? Is it because you're black and brown? No, we just choose to stand our ground. Stay in your place, deal with your issues. We'll send lots of coal and tissues. Don't form caravans and run. You'll find yourself in the sight of a gun. There are no streets here lined with gold. Our eyes are closed, our hearts are cold. There is no flowing milk and honey. American skies are not that sunny. The fences we build keep aliens out. They serve to keep our faith devout. This land we scheme to make our own, it's ours, you see, and ours alone. As long as you stay on the other side, we can maintain our national pride. Please don't show us your anguished faces. We're cutting back on other races. We've had enough of global inclusion. We're ridding this country of race confusion. We know how to win these fights and limit all these civil rights. Safety nets and the welfare state will have to stop for the lost and the late. A rising tide that favors the rich, that's our favorite campaign pitch. Me Too movements and Black Lives Matter, in all due time your ranks will scatter. You think that you shall overcome? Just cross this line, we'll give you some. We'll give you a taste of burning churches and black boys hung from oaks and birches. We'll give you a taste of incarceration in prisons.com, the corporate plantation. We're taking this country back to a time when a brown life wasn't worth a dime, except for the way it worked in the field, except for a bushel of crops to yield. We're taking this country back to the day when white meant right in every way, when men of privilege could rape and beat and kill for spite, then lie and cheat. We're taking this homeland back to a season when hooded marauders needed no reason to hunt down folks with rifles and dogs through the lonely woods, the swamps and bogs, when Confederate flags were boldly raised and crosses in the darkness blazed, and the land was full of racial hate served with grits on a breakfast plate. You thought the worm had surely turned and young black bodies no longer burned. Yet here we are along this way with the specter of prejudice winning the day. The MAGA caps we wear with pride, they let us know who's on our side. That pointed hood and long white robe, fine clothes for the xenophobe. Perhaps this place that immigrants covet can somehow heal and rise above it. Until that day, our best advice, to call this home, you'll pay a price. You'll pay a price as many misguided embrace the hate their voice provided. His Twitter rants and sound bites full of ethnocentric cock and bull. You'll pay a price as higher walls lead great climbers to greater falls, when fences are the new condition, announcing the refugees' abolition. This isn't our nation's greatest hour, this flexing of white supremacist power. And yet, the season is fully revealing the stain of hatred we've been concealing. So take good note and be on guard of deadly traps around the yard. Our agents are on high alert to keep you foreigners off this dirt. Tolerance is in short supply. We won't let your kind occupy this sacred land our forebears built. We don't subscribe to Anglo guilt. This fence was built without a gate to keep out all who come here late. To all you aliens who we don't like strange, no room at the inn in our home on the range. All right. Wow. And it's funny, but it's not. All right, so let's...
Yeah, I love the tone that you achieve with some of these, especially pointed ones like this.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I should mention, especially in the wake of that one, if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the comment box. I'll be checking it throughout the night. Comments, reactions, thoughts, and really anything, because I'm sure that Terry would love to hear from you. I would too.
No doubt, no doubt. So we're going to go in a totally different direction. Jonathan and I have been doing a lot of jazz pieces and loving them. And so we're going to, for our second piece, we're going to do a new piece that we've gotten together on, and it's called Reprise for Naima. And if you're really familiar with jazz and the jazz canon, you know that John Coltrane wrote a piece called Naima that's one of the real classics of, again, the jazz canon. So this is kind of a take on Naima by John Coltrane. He would blow this note in the midnight air. Aloft in the ether it floats out there. Staccato cadence sets a mood of bluesy lyrical attitude. Improvisational mystery like Monk's piano epistrophe or Miles' tone poem in a silent way, and Flanagan's piece at the end of the day. Syncopated in sharp bright tone, a countdown to stardust, a twilight zone. Like a blue train running against the night, setting the pace, then out of sight. With Hartman crooning or bags on vibes, trios, duets, quartets, and tribes. The blues, the ballads, the avant-garde, incredibly gorgeous, impossibly hard. Giant steps move us miles ahead, cooking up bop for Harlem street cred. Melody's hand to the harmony wed, piano's lullaby fresh in the bed. Rhythm rocks where the drummer led, rhythm rolls where the bass man sped. Rhythm birthed what the saxophone bred, rhythm heard what the master said. How could he make the bitter taste sweeter? How could a tortured mind delete her? How could the mellowed scotch be neater? How could the smitten love entreat her? How could the smoke from each cigarette cast blue notes that cast the net, create blue beads of pooling sweat, create blue haze that clouds regret, create blue nights one can't forget? Coltrane's notes are a crystal scale, a velvet scream in the urban travail, a heavenly riff of a love supreme, the pungent whiff of her lover's theme. Coltrane's notes are a cozy romance, the breezy bounce of a bop and a dance, the languid lilt of Stray's lush life, the cadence cut by the artist's knife. Coltrane's notes are a standard refined like gold in a pan or gemstones mined, the sparkling glow of a hopeful dream, hot black coffee with a hint of cream. Coltrane's notes are Naima's reprise, like madness that brings a man to his knees, or sadness that comes when lovers part, the gladness removed from the balladeer's heart. A tight arrangement cuts the gloom. The melody says that love's in bloom. The harmony spirit engulfs the room. The bride says yes to her lyrical groom. The groom and the beat then jump the broom. The kick drum resounds with a sonic womb, and genius is birthed in a soul-filled womb. Musical mythology mocks a twisted path the hero walks. With sword and shield the hero stalks. The temptress shakes her twisted locks. Medusa's snakes reflection shocks. Holds up the mirror to stony blocks. The harp and the horn melt icy rocks. Serpent retreats and symphony talks. Love's door opens as lyric knocks. Coltrane's notes are a roller coaster, a hallelujah and a paternoster, the glorious jolt of the maestro's hand. The saxophone titan is in command. Coltrane's notes are a crazy rhythm, the squawk of chords and playful schism, the frenetic pace of Mr. PC, the coolest round midnight will ever be. Coltrane's notes are a standard refined, like gold in a pan or gemstones mined, the sparkling glow of a hopeful dream, hot black coffee with a hint of cream. Coltrane's notes are Naima's reprise, like madness that brings a man to his knees, or sadness that comes when lovers part, the gladness removed from the balladeer's heart. Cool.
Beautiful.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So we're marrying some really beautiful piano licks to the words I have, and it's just leading us to places that probably neither of us ever thought we'd go.
Right. Well, I love that one too, because it was even just a passing comment you made after the last time we did it. Just that you felt like this one was your opportunity to improvise a little bit.
Yeah.
In the same vein as John Coltrane, which just this light bulb went off in my head when you said that, because I never thought about, poets having that kind of improvisational sense. but that way we can kind of work off each other.
Yeah.
In those moments.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny because, I write everything down. Right. I'm at that age where I need to be able to read it off the page, and I won't say any more about that. But improvisation to spoken word is so endemic that when they sit up there with maybe a cell phone, maybe nothing at all, and they come with these long, very, very detailed, very ornate, but very organic pieces. I'm going to talk about the spoken word folks. I admire them and I emulate them, but again, I've got to write it down. I've got to write it down, and particularly if we're going to get together and do stuff, then I can't be that extemporaneous.
Right, and likewise at least with my accompaniments, I need to at least know where it's going to end up.
Yeah.
At some point. So, anyways, we could talk about this stuff all day.
We
really
could.
could.
We could.
Terry, what do you want to do next?
Let's go to microaggressions.
All right.
Yeah. So a lot of what Jonathan and I are doing, and I think, part of the reason why he, first got in touch with me to do the first Medford Jazz Festival with him back last year was because of the social justice themes that I kind of traffic in, pretty naturally for me. And one of the pieces that we've looked at is a piece called Microaggressions. And again, it doesn't need a lot of lead up. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. You'll never know what this feels like. 24/7, 365, 366 in a leap year, and it's definitely a black thing. Why? I'm so glad you asked. You call the police on us like you're calling a building manager to come unclog your toilet. Because you can. The skin you're in says, I win. We can't ever be too loud. We can't ever be too educated. We can't ever be too proud. We can't ever be too dedicated. Nobody follows you around in Nordstrom just because. Nobody asks you for your ID on campus just because. Nobody frisks and cuffs you without provocation just because. Just because of the skin you're in. You can never be too loud. You can never be too educated. You can never be too proud. You can never be too dedicated. We live with this every day. We deal with this every day. We're mindful of this every day. We're stressed by this every day. You've never walked a mile in these shoes. You can't feel how much these shoes pinch my toes. You can't feel the tightness and discomfort in every step I have to take in a whitewashed world. But why? Why does it take 26 bullets to subdue a black boy with his back turned and no weapon save a cell phone? Why do major corporations like Unilever, H&M, and Heineken perpetuate racial stereotypes with tone-deaf advertising on the regular? Why does a sitting POTUS think it's okay to call the countries where my people came from holes? Why does a black child in grade school get put out of class for the same type of horseplay or youthful obstinance or mild assertiveness that gets his white classmate a simple, Johnny, behave yourself? You don't know how it feels to see the smiling faces of rednecks and Klansmen, Klans women, and Klans kids standing hundreds deep in a field where the child body of a black boy is dangling from a noose on the bough of an ancient oak tree. Perhaps the Jew does, when he sees the image of naked bodies piled in the rigors of death at Auschwitz or Dachau. Perhaps the native Apache or Cherokee does when she sees the grainy illustrations of the fourth death marches of her ancestors across the Trail of Tears. Perhaps the Japanese immigrant does when he remembers the barbed wire perimeters and horse stables converted to living quarters or for the forced internment of potential enemy agents. But you, heir to the Anglo-Euro spoils of colonial conquest and systemic privilege, do not have radar for this. Do not have a frame of reference for this. Do not have in appreciation for this. You do not have the emotional intelligence for these little hurts of the heart, bee stings to the brain, sucker punches to the soul, spilled milk of the spirit. You say, it's nothing we think you should cry over, even as you watch us sometimes die over these microaggressions, these race-fueled transgressions, this constant procession of slings and arrows that seldom miss the target when the bullseye is black like me. Excuse me, folks.
All right.
Woo!
Yeah, that one is, I love that one. Let me just see if there's anything from the comments section that's coming in. Again, feel free to type comments, questions, just about anything. Well, not just about anything. I shouldn't say that. But into that chat bar in the YouTube. We'll definitely go back and comb it over more carefully later. George, is my speaking mic an okay level? I'm just trying to make sure that everybody can hear me.
Absolutely. I think so.
Okay, good. Just making sure. Sorry, that's a hard one to follow.
You know, it is, but let's change the note just a different. I want just a smidge. I want to do legacy.
Yeah. This is great. We did this one for the first time about, was it a month ago at this point?
Yeah,
I think
just
it actually
about
was.
3,
Wow,
4 weeks,
time is so not linear in my head right
My
now.
goodness.
But we did this as artists in residence at a school, Bremer and May School in Chestnut Hill. Hopefully, a couple of those kids are watching this too. That was the first time, and it was very very meaningful, I think, to talk about the idea of legacy in front of a bunch of young people. So we're gonna play this one for you. Let me just get it up here.
Did you gave me a little intro on this one, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. It's not for you to tell your own story. That is the burden of your children. They must shoulder this yoke with love and loyalty. And yet, you have not gathered them up and bid them sit before the campfires of their elders. You have not seasoned their meals with the spice of their identity and the savor of their names. How will they learn to walk the walk and talk the talk? How will they learn to tell your stories, even as they live out their own? Sons and daughters and heirs, if you didn't smell the burning ash or feel the warmth of the flame on your neck, you don't know. If you didn't revel in the growl of the griot's earthly reply or the trill of the mockingbird's cry, you don't know. If mama was too tired and daddy too long gone to carry the wood, light the spark, and stoke the flames, you don't know. And until the lion cub knows how to tell the pride stories, the hunters will always tell them first. The good book says, train up the child in the way they should go. Will we let them depart from the community of faith and the city on a hill without the master's touch, without the oil of his anointing and his full measure of grace? Will we not show them Anansi's clever ways, Popo and Fifina's journey, Mufaro's beautiful daughters, the people who could fly, the wonders of Wakanda and Songololo's new tackies? The prophet says he will encourage fathers and their children to return. But how will they know the way home if no map charts the seas, measures the roads, sights the peaks and valleys, and names each forest despite the thickening trees? Will the burden of the elder stories be too heavy for the children? Will they care to carry? Will they dare to tarry? Will they linger at the foot of the griot? Will they hunger for the wisdom of the sage? We must put them on the page. where hard work earns the man his wage, where power is measured by God's own gauge, where miracles scoff at the wand of a mage. We must share with them the truth that is loyal and fierce like Naomi and Ruth, that doesn't wait for the confessional booth, that has the bite of the panther's tooth. This is the gift of legacy, where a glorious past sets the captives free and a candle's light beckons liberty. Sons and daughters and heirs, I bid you sit before the campfires of your elders. Hear their stories, gather up their stones, and build up your strength. They will show you Anansi's clever ways, Popo and Fifina's journey, Mufaro's beautiful daughters, the people who could fly, the wonders of Wakanda, and Songololo's new tackies. Soon, you will be the herald. Write these things down on the tablets of your spirit. Let them put a running in your feet. With each quickening step, you repel the arrows of the hunter with the shield of abiding faith. You capture the flags of your enemies and gather up their spoils. You remain the lions of the pride, and your tails will always be your children's bread. You will never abandon the community of faith, though you build 1,000 cities on a hill, drawing wondrous strength from the Master's touch, as the oil of his anointing fill your clay jars with his grace. Nice, pretty stuff, John. That's
Thanks,
pretty stuff.
Oh,
Like that.
great. Another just amazing poem. So much imagery in here. Every time I read through it, I feel like I find something else.
Cool. Well, that's the way we like it. That's the way we like it. So, in my neighborhood, in dozens of neighborhoods across the country, you know, change is in the air, and it's been that way for a number of years now. I live in West Medford, Massachusetts, and West Medford is the historically black community of Medford going back to the 1890s, but it's not so anymore. And I was watching a program on television about a couple of guys who go into urban Detroit and renovate houses and then resell them. And, you know, this whole notion of gentrification that's taking place across the country is kind of a hard swallow sometimes, but there's no guarantee in life except for change. And one of the change that's taking place, again, is gentrification, and I wanted to write about it, and I did so a little while back. So this piece is called Gentrified. They talk about renovating, reimagining, and rehabilitating. They rave about new visions, new horizons, and new perspectives. They revel in bistros, boutiques, and boulangeries. They fairly skip to the subway stations. They bike on the painted pathways. They Uber and Lyft religiously. Everything's on trend and on point and au pair. They've codified the way they speak about what used to be. Urban blight, eyesores, drug dens, crack houses, tenements, and slums. The ghetto. They've modified the way they speak about what we now see. Makeovers, investment properties, B&Bs, brownstones, townhouses, condos, and co-ops. Everything's vintage, bohemian, artsy, and retro, with creative green spaces and lofted open places. Speculators bought lower than low, patiently waiting for the change, waiting for the junkies to move on, waiting for the squatters to give up, waiting for the black and the brown and the tan to fade. They waited for the graffiti to erode. They waited for the chain link to corrode. They waited for the families to implode. They waited for the prices to explode. They waited and they calculated. They waited as folks capitulated. They waited as folks evacuated. They waited as folks migrated. Then the realtors came and dispelled white folks' fears. The architects came and re-engineered. The designers came and changed the veneers. The builders came and the new folk cheered. Now they've moved closer to work in the city, to quartz countertops that made kitchens pretty, to charter schools, nannies, and drivers, and bike frames made with carbon fibers, to Starbucks lattes and artisanal breads and articulated sleep number beds, to million-dollar urban showplaces, and fewer black and brown faces. They showed us their heels when they took the white flight. Then they crept back in the dead of night. With fat bank accounts, they were IPO wealthy. Their move to displace was measured and stealthy. All of the potholes now smoothly paved over. Brown folks got schooled like a curry crossover. White folks doing a long-term sleepover. Exclusive, obtrusive, extreme home makeover. With a spoonful of sugar, they took all the clover. Changing the context of neighborhood with subway tile and exotic wood. Harlem, Detroit, and Chicago's South Side. Boston's South End, surely gentrified. Emptied the church, emptied the steeple. Now it's a spot for the chai drinking people. Took down the poles and the basketball hoops. Now it's a park for the dog walking troops. No more rec and community center, but a new parking lot for the monthly renter. Some folks hang on, but the die is cast. The fire is consumed and the torch is passed. Invisible lines are drawn again, and the folks can't buy when the banks won't lend. Some folks keep their roots in the ground, but the waiting game is deep and profound. They tour the streets noting history, yet what they want is no mystery. Harlem, Detroit, and Chicago's South Side. A reoccupation is being applied to model cities that trickle down, no longer suited to black and brown. The urban sprawl that used to be the only homes we got to see is now the place for a growing infusion, is now the place that the gentry is choosing. Low-rise projects slowly yield to equity buildings, leases sealed, to folks who come from far afield, who won the fight when the poor folks appealed, to lawyers and doctors and high-tech heroes with trust fund ones and hedge fund zeros. No preserving community, no real thought of legacy. A small plaque here, a street sign there, nothing that bronzes the atmosphere. Oakland, Brooklyn, and New Orleans, all made targets by whites with means. Even in venerable Chocolate City, the news in the district inspires some pity, killing the concept of neighborhood in ways they've never understood. And now we witness the slow, painful slide as the village we built becomes gentrified. Well, there it is then. There it is. All right. All right. Ba-dum-bum-bum.
Any other? While we're I think I have to turn my mic on.
Okay.
Or maybe. Oh, there we go. Thank you, George. Any other questions as we're figuring out what we want to do? Ah, there we go.
Cool.
Okay, we have two questions. One, can you talk more about your process of working together? That's a good one. And then the next one, where/who do you hope this project will reach?
Okay.
Both questions that we could again probably talk about all night. But Terry, I'll let you take the first stab at. Well, why don't we do one by one?
Because I actually think that we both have an answer from the process standpoint. My process is to write.
Yeah. Well, the process of how you come up with some of these poems would also be interesting.
Well, I think the poet, and John probably concur on the music side is, you do your best work when you're writing out of the fount of your own experience.
Right.
So I think that as a poet, what I'm looking to do is I'm coming from places of faith and social justice and history and jazz and all the things that I love and pay attention to are the things that go into my poetry. I'm also what a lot of my friends and family consider a poet of occasion. So, birthdays and weddings and unfortunately funerals and sicknesses and all of those life occurrences that are important to people I've written poems about, and so I get a lot of that. Now, in terms of what Jonathan and I are doing together, and he might have a slightly different take on it, but basically what it is he's going to say, I've got some music and it's about this, and could you write something about it?
Right, that was kind of how we started, wasn't it?
That's how we started, and then later it became, well, John, I've written this, and this, and can you take a listen to it, and can you come up with some music for it? So we, when he has ideas about a statement that he wants to make, I want to hear the music, and when I have ideas about a statement that I want to make, he wants to hear the words, so it works out.
Right. No, it totally does, and there's no shortage of stuff that Terry has written that would go well with music. Just multitasking and trying to keep up with comments and and think about the question, because that's a deep one. There's so much just going through your volumes of poetry that, I mean, you're so savvy when it comes to music too, and musical references, that a lot of times that you just hand me exactly what you want. Especially with those the jazz themed works. And then on the other side, I would just say that Terry's delivery is very rhythmic and very emotionally poignant, so that usually gives me right off the bat just from reading it through. And you've been gracious enough to send me recordings of reading things, which is just, it's a picture is worth 1,000 words situation there, where usually if I can hear the way that he's delivering it, I'll come up with a groove, and then as far as the emotional content, usually I try to let that inform my harmonic and melodic palette. And so, I mean, we've talked a little bit more about our process in various clinics and things, and it's just been fascinating. I usually, I mean, even in what I'm using right now, usually I'm just looking at the poem and a couple of my notes along the side about various themes or textures that I want to introduce at certain times. But, also I love keeping it open-ended, and just kind of tapping into that improvisational element and saying, you know what, if something else happens this time, I'm not bound to anything necessarily that I've done before. And
I think that one of the things that's beginning to happen, I think it actually has been happening for a little while now as we played together, is we're really getting that that simpatico thing going, where he hears kind of the same things I hear musically for my words, and I kind of can craft words that I know are going to work with the way that you like to play. So I'm really thrilled about kind of a partnership where I'm not really worried about is he going to get me, is he going to feel my flow, whatever. I'm just really thinking about, okay, just go on ahead and write it and give it to him, man. He's going to find some music that'll go with it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you think about it that way, because
which is cool.
It really is, it's just having, artists that have any collaboration is just a joint vision of what they want to accomplish together, and just enough tools to do it. Why don't we go ahead and just quickly answer part of that second question, which is just who we're trying to reach with all of this, which I'll let you take the brunt of this one, because you have way more perspective on that than I do, probably. At this point.
It's funny. I think we're probably going to say the same thing. Anybody and everybody that loves poetry and music. So anybody that's out there, probably a little bit more, from an adult perspective. I don't write a whole lot of stuff for kids, and although I've been asked to write things for for younger people, and I can do it. But I'm writing about contemporary stuff that's got some weight and got some mass to it. So anybody out there that's thoughtful, certainly I'm writing for the jazz stuff is for the jazz nerds. We love the jazz nerds. We are jazz nerds, Jonathan and I both. We're also writing for the word folks, the people that love literature and that love the spoken word or the written word. And we're writing for people who want to see these themes of social justice be explored from a real, true, and genuine perspective.
Absolutely. And I feel like, just to add a little bit to that maybe there are audiences that either one of us in our individual work wouldn't reach, but maybe together we're starting to kind of pull people together and create a community. And that's the exciting thing about this concert series too, as a whole, that all of a sudden you can look around and say, oh, between all these different arts organizations, between these artists, we're creating something here that hopefully is sustainable into the future. Yeah. And also just, meeting people that Terry is connected with, and Terry meeting people that I'm connected with, that wouldn't necessarily know about us on our own. Right. But since we're, I think that's the beauty of any collaboration, really, but especially kind of a collaboration between artists of different means or mediums that you're going to get. And, you can think of examples throughout history of how that's happened. And so in some small way, I feel like I'm starting to understand that a little bit better. Well, why don't we've got a lot more, so why don't we
let's hit it. So John, let's do this. Let's do the jazz piece, and the melody lingers on. Sure. This is new for both of us. We just, kind of riffed on it a little bit tonight, but it's based on the classic tune "A Night in Tunisia" that's been played by just about anybody who's anybody in jazz, and also sung to wonderful dramatic effect by Chaka Khan.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Chaka Khan's got a version of "A Night in Tunisia" it's pretty incredible. So when you get next to YouTube, you dial that one up.
See, this is what I love about hanging out with Terry in any capacity, is that I've studied music for pretty much my whole life, but he'll bring up these recordings that I've never heard about, even in his poems. Yeah. So,
well, I'm a jazz nerd.
It's great. It's amazing.
And like, when you come out of your your bibliography, there's going to be all kinds of stuff in there. Not only jazz stuff, but classical stuff that's been made into jazz stuff and all of that. So I'm learning a lot.
Yeah,
I'm learning a lot, and I love it. So, okay, and the melody lingers on. We're going to do "And the Melody Lingers On." Was it "A Night in Tunisia" or some other song that kept the melody lingering on? Something some master of jazz may have played, captured the people, and all of them stayed. A maiden voyage, expansive and new, surrounded by rhythm harmonically true. Mesmerizingly altered the senses, broke down the barriers, mended the fences. Honeyed with baritone, leveled with bass, a lilting saxophone quickens the pace. The dolphins dance in oceans of blue, and the sweetest romance floats into view. According to Ella, the night has sweet peace, yet history sweeps and the romance must cease. Stoked by the storms of an Arab spring, that night has become a turbulent thing. The ages-old passions of Berbers and Moors, Muslims and Christians, religion and wars. Now revolution has boiled the moon, the melody swelters as patriots swoon. Could Yardbird and Miles have gotten it wrong? Could Art Blakey's bandmates messed up the song? Did Dizzy's trumpet blare out a rhythm that couldn't contain this ages-old schism? Did A Night in Tunisia get it wrong in making the classic groove-filled song? And yet, the great ones genuflect to play that tune with great respect. A Night in Tunisia, that jazzy icon, and the melody lingers on. The song remains a jazz bonbon, and the melody lingers on. A Night in Tunisia beckons the dawn, and the melody lingers on. That's a bounce and a bop right there. I love it. I just love it. Okay. Let's see. John, let's do Bystander's Lullaby.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, so this piece was one of the first that Terry and I collaborated on back in the first iteration of the Medford Jazz Festival, and I was just so blown away by Terry's, rapid response to the recording that I sent him. It was just a little piano sketch. I said, here, this is what I'm thinking as far as a theme, the idea of being a bystander in this suite of pieces, and I just gave him about a 30-second recording, and then he came back and he wrote this entire piece, which I think is really poignant, especially in the wake of all of the the things we've been experiencing and the trial that we just watched too. Not to go too far down that road, but it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I think the rest of the country probably has too. So I think this is fairly explicit as well.
It's good. It's good. It's a good intro. I love that. Is it well, my brother, to just stand idly by and watch them kill a black man, to watch him slowly die? They kill one for the master, they kill one for the dame, they kill the innocent little boy who lives down the lane. Is it well, my white friend, to turn and walk away while men of foul intention rule each waking day? Laws to keep fair treatment blocked, laws to keep the prison stocked, and one law written specially to keep the borders locked. Is it well, fair maidens, to quiet now your voice, to follow in blind silence the clearly evil choice? Silence for the victim, silence for his kin, silence for the race of those who wear his darker skin. Is it well within your soul to hang your head in shame and never offer stern rebuke for the cruel and sinful gain? Rebuke for the hatred, rebuke for the pride, and even for the privilege of watching from the side. Is it well, Dame Justice, to just stand idly by as the dreams of countless brown kids fail without a reason why? No dreams on the corner, no dreams on the street, no dreams for the innocent lass covered by the sheet. Whew, short but certainly not sweet.
Yeah. No. While we're on that, do you want to go ahead and do the Fog of War?
Yeah.
This was part of a suite of pieces that we did as part of that first annual Medford Jazz Festival, and these two went well together. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and do this is a piece that Terry had previously written. I mean, these two are a perfect example of how the process can go either way.
Absolutely.
That one, I'd written some of the music first, and then this one, Terry had written the poem first, and I thought, well, this is perfect. We'll slide right in, and drafted something and arranged this for a quintet. I think the video is still up on YouTube as well if you want to check that out. And I know
Medford Community Media
and Medford
too.
Community Media as well. It's been re-aired a couple times, which makes me feel good that this project is finally getting some attention.
Yeah.
So
it's got legs. No doubt.
Yep.
No doubt. So I'll just preface this real quickly by saying this is the heavy lifting. Okay. We can't even measure our lives by the decades, by the years, by the weeks, by the days, by the hours, and by the minutes. We now have to measure our lives by the haters, by the trials, by the bigots, by the racists, by the instigators, by the victims, and by the killers. America's heading for such a train wreck. When did these cards come into the deck? People are shouting, yo, what the heck? Why does the knee have to crush the neck? Why do peace officers serve and protect Why is there such abuse and neglect? Who closed the door to the word respect? What kind of change can our protest effect? What righteous God would refuse to object? What kind of world can our children expect? Have we yet again become the poet's prophetic hogs? Penned up ingloriously, hemmed up laboriously, hunted down injuriously, shouted down most furiously, delayed most notoriously, denied most victoriously? These are the decades of new death. These are the years of new yokes. These are the months of new menace. These are the weeks of new worry. These are the days of new demons. These are the hours of new horror. These are the moments of new mayhem. How can a nation be so off course? All of our progress now in reverse. MLK's dream in a funeral hearse. Don't call a doctor, don't need a nurse. Their aim is to kill and they always shoot first. The signs all point to it getting worse. More evil eyes than a voodoo curse. Not enough coin in the federal purse, but the corporate coffers, they will reimburse. You've beckoned your poor and disenfranchised to hate, agitate, and castigate our poor disenfranchised, when they really should be one with us through the fog of the war of your war on the poor. You've bewitched your middle class with envy, scorn, and disgust about our middle class and their so-called entitlements, when in reality your women and your children and your families have benefited far more from government subsidy. You've cheated charity and broken philanthropies in more ways than there are days. Meanwhile, you've churned vast sums of American wealth and tax time dodges toward campaigns of marginalization, suppression, and exclusion. We can't even afford to imagine plowshares and picket fences. We can't even try to envision growing old and comfortable together. We can't even begin to talk legacy and heritage with our children and our children's children. You've so completely enveloped us in the smoke of urban flames and the fog of war. There you stand, race-proud and irritated, ready to shoot at the melanated. Cul-de-sacs are closed and gated, targets are quiet and traps fully baited, military ordnance incorporated, young black lives expiration dated. How are these lives so worthlessly rated, to the killing fields now relegated? Why is our future so painfully rated? Martin's not coming back through that door. We don't have that kind of king anymore, who lowers this ceiling and raises the floor, who pulls down these walls and empowers the poor. How many times must we protest and prove, assemble, invoke, and begin then to move? We find ourselves back in that late 60s groove. Is this a path that can ever be smooth? We can't even measure our lives by the decades, by the years, by the months, by the weeks, by the days, by the hours, or by the minutes. We now have to measure our lives by the militias and the minions, by the instigators and the insurrectionists, by the bump stocks and black talons, by the ones in fatigues and flak jackets, by the ones in riot gear and advancing blue lines, by the ones in wrapped Confederate flags, by the ones in business suits and golf pants, by the ones on Twitter and the dark web. Through the fog of war, we see a different America. A scabrous blight on the amber waves, a purple mountains reduced to rubble, the lady in the harbor cuffed and muzzled, the beacon in the bay gone dark and silent, red blood flowing in the streets, blue lines bracing for the looters and cheats, white cloth cut into peaked hoods and sheets. You've enslaved our people for doleful decades. You've endangered our people for Yankee years. You've entangled our people for monstrous months. You've ensnared our people for woeful weeks. You've encroached on our people for disastrous days. You've envied our people for hateful hours. You've endured our people for measured minutes. You would again consign us to the ash heap of history. You would again declare us 3/5 of a man. You would again make us those hunted hogs. You would again confine us to cabin and field. You would forever fly your banners of disdain over us. You would forever deny our achievements and contributions. You would forever incarcerate and disappear us. You would forever avow that our lives don't matter. These are the decades of new death. These are the years of new yokes. These are the months of new menace. These are the weeks of new worry. These are the days of new demons. These are the hours of new horror. These are the moments of new mayhem. Still, even through the fog of war, we see a different America. A marvelous light at the tunnel's end, the purple mountains redolent with hope and mercy, the lady in the harbor released and renewed, the beacon in the bay beckoning the lost, the stolen, and the strayed. Red blood flowing through a unified heart, blue lines embracing a true call to serve and protect, white cloth sewn into choir robes and garments of praise. We will not be cowed. We are not afraid. We will not be silent. We will know our friends and stay beside them. God is on our side. Justice will roll down like waters, righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. If we must die, it will not be as hogs to the slaughter. We, too, are Americans. We will not let hate win. We shall overcome. All right. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I like it. So yeah,
all right.
let's...
Any other questions as we're going along? Nothing coming in yet. I think we got time for probably one or two more.
Okay.
Which we probably overplanned this one.
Yeah, we did.
But that's
but
good.
There's not too much left.
That's true. Actually.
Let's do Reprise for Poinciana.
Yeah. And then if we don't get to a couple of things, that'll be incentive to do the skin.
You got it. Put it down on digital.
There are more musical references in this than I originally realized, and going back through, it's amazing.
It's funny. Like naming your favorite poetry is like parents, saying which of their children they like best. So I generally will not do it.
Okay.
But I will be honest with you, this is probably one of my favorite pieces.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, mine too.
Perfect a fantasy in black and tan, between the Savoy Ballroom and a Paris can-can. The kind of blue that doesn't get you down, it rather has you twirling round and round and round. Kind of blue, but not really. Like a conversation between Miles and Q in a smoke-filled corner, just those two talking about the music round midnight. Miles and that miraculous horn, all gravel voice and full of scorn, asking Q, "What made you feel like doing stuff like that?" Jazz finds justice in the majesty of the blues. Take 5 to wonder and you'll know that this is true. Deep and delicious all over, pondered passionately in pianissimo, keeping standard time. Duke's Mood Indigo, Joe Sample's Rainbow Seeker, Errol Garner's Misty Worship in the style of G. You know the melody songs you just can't get out of your head. Kind of blue, but not really. Just like the woman whose name you call as the autumn leaves begin to fall, or maybe like the melody by Ahmad Jamal, Poinciana. Last days of sun and sand and sea, you and your love and the music made 3. A lyric so familiar, a song so sweet, ebony notes on an ivory sheet, new tear stains on every page, a bit of your heart in a crystal cage, kind of blue, but not really. You'll remember her most round midnight, Poinciana, fragrant, fresh wind recollections, a song reprise, summer breeze makes me feel fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind. Miles and Q in that smoke-filled corner, talking about taking the A train, going up to Small's Paradise. Sassy's gonna be scatting and Hawk's band is in town, doing jazz some real justice. Marvelous, majestic, and kind of blue, but not really. You'll remember her most round midnight, Poinciana, pungent rose petal pictures, a song reprise. The first time ever I saw your face, I thought the sun rose in your eyes. Fantasy perfected in cocoa and cream, Harlem nights in a Moulin Rouge daydream, the kind of blue that fills your soul, engulfs your spirit, and makes you whole. My Poinciana, I'll remember you most round midnight, frail fragments of love's fulfillment, kind of blue, but not really. Your song reprised. Till you come back to me, that's what I'm gonna do. Poinciana, my Poinciana. Dude, that's bananas. I love that.
Oh, that's great. Well,
Yeah. That
just
is
trying to be the human jukebox.
so cool, man. I can name that tune in 5 notes.
I know. It makes
Yeah.
you realize a
Mhm.
little bit that all of these blend together, and I just imagine as an accompanist that it's almost free association
Yeah.
with all of these songs
Yeah.
that you're remembering.
Man, I love what you do with that. It lilts. It just floats over the words so nicely. I love it. I
Oh,
love
good.
it.
No, I'm glad because there's such a beautiful groove
Yeah.
that's set up by this particular poem.
Yeah, and so it's funny because I'm a little spoiled on Reprise because it's the one piece that I actually recorded musically with another artist real well known in this area,
Which I
named
did not
George
know.
Russell. Yeah, but he
Otherwise, I
did-
think I would have been a little more intimidated.
no, and I'm
but,
glad
you
you
know,
weren't. Maybe
Right.
ignorance is bliss in this instance.
It was at first.
But your version and his version, 360 degrees of difference,
Right,
but they
right, that's
both
true.
work perfectly, which just goes to show, if you write a decent lyric, musicians can get behind it.
Right. Well, I feel like that's the case with all of these tunes that keep getting recycled, and part of the Great American Songbook is
Yeah.
that. It just thinking about even the Arlington Jazz Festival. Big shout out to Dan Fox for a great job
Dan
with
Fox,
that.
cool
Yeah.
guy, man,
Oh
no
yeah.
doubt.
No, it's great. But just some of the Latin groups that he had in there, doing some of the same compositions that other groups do in a Afro-Cuban style,
Yeah.
or with a conga player or something. It still totally works.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine poetry is in a similar vein there.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna do Afro Blue at some point.
Oh,
Because
we
I've
gotta do that.
got a
Yeah.
reprise for Afro Blue,
Wow.
which is one of my
Okay.
favorite jazz cuts. I don't have it here with me, or else we could run by it right now.
Okay.
Do we have time
I
for
think
one
we
more
could
piece?
do one more. Yeah.
Okay, well let's do a shorty.
not on
Let's
a
do
strict-
riding up front.
Okay, sounds great. And again, before we just do this last one, just urge you, if you haven't seen it already, please check out the Patreon page
Yeah.
that will be supporting this entire series. We're hoping to meet our goal of $200 a month just to get some different groups in here and expand our roster of musicians. There's so many great composers, performers, just about anything you can think of
Yeah.
musically in Medford, and I'm just so excited to be building this community.
Absolutely.
From this point out.
absolutely. And it's building up, obviously, to a jazz festival that is going to be, if it's possible, even better than the first one. And we're really looking forward to it because, if Medford considers itself an important city on the Massachusetts roadmap, it's got to have a jazz festival.
That's a good way of
Gotta
putting it.
happen,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, we had an amazing lineup last year, and that was all live streamed from here. But we're hoping at the very least we can do some concerts outside over the summer.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to sit tight and see what regulations are like
Right.
and how the numbers are. So, anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, and for all of our Patreon members already. We're going to do one more. You want to do Riding Up Front?
Yeah, please.
All
yeah.
right.
We're gonna end where we begin. It's kind of, what Jonathan and I always do. It's social justice. So this piece is called Riding Up Front, and you will get it. Can't do it. Don't even ask me, Black. It's a bus, but I ain't riding in the back. Young bloods, they ain't got no idea of how long we had to ride in the rear. In the lazy South, American apartheid, the law of the land was stratified. Seats up front unoccupied, yet a pregnant brown girl can't sit and ride. Elders, toddlers, just didn't matter. And don't let them hear no race talk or chatter. Redneck drivers would put us out. But y'all don't know what I'm talking about. Then along came courageous Rosa Parks, tired and weary but full of sparks. Took a seat in the first few rows, seeking not chaos but simple repose. Think them whites heard what she was saying? Hell no, and them crackers for sure wasn't playing. Jailed up Miss Rosa without dignity, commending her acts to our history. But you don't have no gratitude, no pride in self, just attitude. You make your way to the back of the bus, you drink and smoke and holler and cuss. You say it's your prerogative. You say it's just the way you live. You just don't get it. You just don't care. So cavalier, so unaware. But I can't do it. Don't even ask me, Black. It's a bus, but I ain't riding in the back. Free seats up front. That's for me. I'm digging Miss Rosa's legacy.
Such a great little snapshot. It really is, yeah.
And I always, whenever I say read this poem, I always have that that image that's kind of indelible in the conscious of of America in terms of kind of race, of Rosa Parks holding the police.
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of blotter in front of her with, with her name and the number. And she's just a frail, but elegant little Black woman. And, she's holding literally the weight of a nation in front of her because, she's really one of the catalysts of the civil rights movement.
Right, right. That's right. And I just love the intergenerational piece of this, too. Yeah. Where it's just about, do we really get it?
Yeah. Are we teaching our kids,
Right.
some of the stuff that they need to know? Not just our kids, but all kids, because it's not just our history, it's American history.
Yep,
so.
Absolutely. We have one more question.
We can get that in.
And this is great. I'm seeing a lot of positive comments here, especially about you writing on the fog of war, which is awesome. We have a very a great segue into this next phase of our collaboration. The question is, do we have any recordings? And the answer is just sit tight, and hopefully we will soon.
Yeah.
We have the first jazz festival under our belt, and aside from that, we definitely want to continue this partnership and hopefully get something soon. What did you say? Put it on.
Well,
what was the phrase?
Put it on wax back
in
the day.
Put it on wax. There we go.
When records were made of actual stuff, plastic stuff, but now it's all digital. So
right.
But
I don't even know what the modern
I'd like to have a
right.
CD too. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, we're gonna do something. Absolutely.
We will. We always keep it going somehow. So. Anyways, and thanks, before we have to end the stream for now, we're a little over an hour. Thanks especially to George and John there and back on the booth. You guys have gone above and beyond, as always, in just making this space both COVID-friendly and just such high-quality production.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned for more information about next month's series. I'll hopefully, or not next month's series, next month's concert as part of the same series.
Yes.
Hopefully get some other local Medford artists in here, and and keep it going.
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
foreseeable future.
And hit up the Patreon page, because funding these concerts will actually be real good for the city of Medford.
I hope so.
And that's the recommendation come from Medford's new and first ever poet laureate.
There you go.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I didn't get to sneak that in there earlier, Terry. No, it's
shameless self-promotion.
No, it's great. And really big congratulations on that too.
Thank
It's
you
a
very
huge
much.
honor. And again, I'm sure you'll be posting more details about
Yeah,
events
I'm looking
on your
forward to
website.
it. My term starts in July, and it's for 2 years. But I've already talked with a bunch of folks in the poetry community, and I'm certainly thinking that there's some musical applications as well to some of the stuff that I'd like to be able to do.
Sure,
No doubt.
Yeah, no, we'll check back on brownskinpoet.net for more information on
That's the place.
that. So it's great. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Have a great evening, and stay tuned for more.
Thank you very much.